Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Things Good podcast. I'm your coach and your host, Giovanna Sorillo. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast that helps you with mental health, self-development, and your overall wellness, helping you become the greatest version of yourself. I hope that you are doing well today. I hope that you are focusing on the things that are good. I want to know, how are you? What's going on in your world? If you have not already sent an email to me, please go ahead and do so. The email is allthingsgoodcoaching@gmail.com. If you are not connected with Bereavement, located in Passaic, New Jersey, then go ahead and connect with them on Facebook and on Instagram. This is a nonprofit organization that is catered to helping men and young boys grieve through loss, grieve through all types of loss. And if this is something that you may be interested in, or maybe you know someone who is going through a rough time and needs a community of men with bereavements. Again, this is a nonprofit organization ran by Daniel Rashford, and you will not regret just joining the community of men. So today we have a lovely guest by the name of Angelica. She is a certified life coach and the founder of Ther-art-py, a creative coaching studio that helps women impacted by loved ones' addiction reclaim their voice, set healthy boundaries, and find peace using art as the catalyst. After navigating her own journey as the wife of an alcoholic, Angelica discovered that painting, journaling, and creative expression were more than just outlets, they were lifelines. Today, she leads powerful workshops and coaching programs that blend emotional support with creative healing, helping women move from silent suffering to self-defined strength. Help me by welcoming Angelica. Welcome, Angelica. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm excited to hear more about your business and your story so you can shed light to the world about how you use art to become your lifeline. I love that. I love that you mentioned that. That was very powerful for you to say.
Yeah.
So your coaching business and art therapy was created for women who have been or currently connected to someone navigating addiction. Can you tell us about your experience and the pivotal moment that led you to begin hosting workshops?
Absolutely. I would love to share with you guys my experience. So, for years, I silently suffered as a wife of someone battling alcohol addiction. I did not realize how overwhelmed I was, or even how much I was shrinking until I started painting. So, what started out really as something fun to do, something cool, something different to do, it became the thing that I craved.
Mm,
Um, it became the thing that when I needed to think, when I had moments where my brain was just racing, my mind was racing, I needed to pause, I needed to think, or even the times where I just needed a moment to breathe, to just slow down, that creative outlet, I realized it was becoming my true lifeline for me. And so I started to think hey, if this can help me, if this can help me, someone like me in my situation, then it can help other women too. So what I did was I took all that pain and that personal experience, I added some education behind it. I got my certifications in life coaching, and then I also got one as a art therapy practitioner. So not a therapist, but I'm still trained to use art as a tool for healing. From there, I pivoted. At that time, I was doing running a paint party business where it really was fun, whimsical. Paint party, get your girls together. Let's have a bachelorette party. Let's paint some stuff. So I pivoted from that casual fun to a more intentional art-based coaching focused on transformation.
awesome. Now, what made you transform from just having fun to really just bringing forth healing?
So what made me transform is because I used it as a tool for myself to kind of handle the overwhelm, the chaos that I was feeling as I was navigating my journey of being a wife to someone with an alcohol addiction. It was something that was completely new for me to experience. It was something that was completely it came through my world and just like a hurricane. And so that's what really made me do it. Like I've always been a creative and like arts. Like I never really considered myself an artist, but I've always liked painting and coloring. And so I was just drawn to it. I did it. Like I said, one day it was like, hey, let's do this for fun. And the relief that I got um doing it was what really was like, hey, let's do this and let's share it with others.
Okay, so did your audience kind of change a bit from the fun to now people dealing with specifically with this situation? How did that transition work out for you guys?
Absolutely. My audience did change because again, like it was like, hey, book Angelica for your bachelorette party, book her for girls' night out. And so my audience, it definitely changed from that fun vibe to people that were really, really going through it. And it's a very targeted audience because I really like to focus on
Right.
women of color who are experiencing that same type of thing in their life.
Okay, that's awesome, and I love the fact that were able to still maintain some type of what should I say, clientele, even though you transitioned from being the fun, let's go have fun to a point where now we're getting serious, now we're healing,
Yes,
now we're being intentional on what we are doing. So that's
absolutely.
beautiful. And the fact that you had people that were still there with you, that's
Hmm.
amazing. So
Yeah.
what process do you take women through? Can you explain what the workshop entails, what practices or methods that you implement?
Yes, that's a good question. I like to talk about this part. So I always start off by grounding. So we're going to do some type of grounding activity. And I do this because we live in a real world, right? I'm a
Mhm.
very practical person. We got stuff happening. Just because you log into a Zoom, just because you hop on a workshop, it's going through withdrawals, your world doesn't stop. So I intentionally take a few minutes to help my clients get centered and focus where their feet are planted. So that's the first thing we do. Next, we dive into the creative exercises. So I personalize the creative exercise based on the client, based on the information that they share when we do our discovery call. So that could look like abstract painting. It can look like some palette play. It could even be like intentional journal prompts and us walking through those prompts together, or it can even be us playing with clay and doing some pottery work, although it might not be pretty. It's not about it being pretty or a masterpiece, right? It's about how you feel while you are working with the different mediums.
Okay.
From there, the third thing that I do is I'm going to dive into coaching a little bit more. And so again, those discovery calls are important because I tailor that coaching experience based on the work or the intention that's set during that discovery call. So we can work on things like boundary setting. And when I work on boundaries, it's not going to be your cookie cutter boundaries. I want to make sure you leave the workshop with practical, realistic boundaries for your situation.
Right.
Um, we can do things like rebuilding identity. We can work on things like that. We might even work on some self-care tools or even just some tools so that you can find or they can find pockets of peace. And when I say pockets of peace, like people that know when you're going through living with someone, loving someone that has an addiction, just having those moments of peace can really, really make the difference from feeling like you can breathe to feeling like you're suffocating.
Right.
Um, and then lastly, we wrap it up. So typically, there might be like a homework assignment, something that I want for them to go and do or implement right away, something that we agreed on. Or it could be us just having a conversation for what next session looks like and what to expect for the next session.
Awesome. I like the fact that you implement different modalities of creativity. So you're not just
Yeah.
doing paint and acrylics, you're doing clay, You're doing all these steps. I love that. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. Now, is it per client? Like, is it per client that you pick your modality, or?
It is per client because it's really going to depend on what they want to work on, what they want to focus on, and then
Okay.
I'll curate some activities that aligns with that, or even what emotion they like want to release. I'll curate some activities that kind of aligns with that.
Awesome. That's amazing. I love that. So, is there a common theme that you have experienced within yourself or the women that you have coached?
Girl, common theme, one singular or plural? Um,
Share it, girl. Share
it
it.
it is crazy because one of the bigger things that I see, and it's one of the things that I felt, everyone thinks that they are alone in this, okay? Myself included, until I stumbled upon a Facebook group. And I kid you not, this Facebook group had 46,000 wives of alcoholics in it. And when I tell you my mouth hit the floor, I could not believe that it was other women. And then so many of the women going through it because, I consider myself kind of a social person. I know people. My friends know a lot of people, and nobody ever told me that they experienced it. So I really truly thought I was on an island alone. Um, and it's crazy because you think you're alone, but then when you start talking to people, I start working with women, all the stories are the same. Addiction looks pretty much the same across the board.
Mhm.
Um, so that was one of the things that was like, oh, um, nobody's talking about it out loud either. And
Right.
so many people are going through it. I also see a pattern with my clients, people that I work with. Women, we are just not setting boundaries. We take a long time to set boundaries before we got to put our foot down and set boundaries, or either we're setting boundaries that are not practical for our situation. We're setting boundaries because of something that we saw on Real Housewives. So that's something else that I saw, and I do a lot of boundary work with people. And then I'll just say lastly, and I'll lump these together. A common thing that I see is and hear is women experiencing guilt, shame, and embarrassment. And that embarrassment piece is one of the reasons, another like reason why I started to share my story so publicly, because I wanted for other people to see like, hey, other people are going through it, and it doesn't matter. Like, this is a human problem. It don't matter your race. It doesn't matter your class. It doesn't matter your education level, the type of hobbies you have. It doesn't matter. And so I wanted people to start being able to really put a name or face to a name of someone who has went through it and who's coming out on the other side of it, a stronger person,
Mm.
and a better person. And I also really just, as far as a common thing that I want people to know about me, I want women to know they're not alone and that I'm here to help.
Right. And I like the fact that you mentioned boundaries because, girl, I think anybody who's heard my podcast knows that I take my boundaries serious.
I
And
see.
I don't play because I know what it is to not set those boundaries. I know what it is to be that people pleaser. I know what it is to give and give and give and finally
Mhm,
just be like, and when you finally say no, there's so much more peace. And though at the beginning there might be tension, there may be some static,
mhm.
but after a while there's peace because you're not allowing anyone within that boundary.
Yeah.
So for in your particular situation or the women that you coach, what are some ways that you recommend setting boundaries? I know it may look a little different for those who are struggling with addiction or know someone who's struggling with addiction.
Mhm. Yeah, so some of the boundaries that I would recommend that women set are their time. They definitely need a boundary on their time. And when I say that, what I say that, and I mean, you can't let that person drain your time.
Mhm.
because it's draining your energy. So in my situation, my husband got really, really sick and we had a lot of hospital visits. And I had to create a boundary. If you weren't critical, I can't sit up in this hospital with you every time, every day, no more, all day, rearranging my schedule, just trying to be it was me trying to just be this dutiful wife, like I was just supposed to. If I wasn't there, I would look bad. And so I really had to set a boundary on my time. I had to start setting boundaries, and I encourage people to set boundaries on their resources,
Mm.
because when you are married to someone who has an addiction, your financial resources can get drained because everything is intertwined. The
Right.
incomes are intertwined, the bill, you're living together, the bills are intertwined. And so sometimes bank accounts are intertwined. Sometimes some women, you might have to get a separate bank account because it's something that's going to protect you and the other people in the household. So those are some
Right.
boundaries. It looks different based on um, the people situation, but those are kind of some of the common boundaries that we set. And I really do make sure that they're practical. And I tell women, like, hey, the boundaries are there to protect you, but don't feel like you want to stand on them, but don't feel like they're um, immovable. And an
Okay.
example of that would be, hey, I know I said I wasn't going to be sitting up here at this hospital with you every day, all day, but perhaps this particular day I need to be up here because I want to stay on top of the lab results, or the hospital staff isn't doing the job that I feel like they need to, because
Right.
they also experience, especially when they're going to the same hospital, the nurses get tired of seeing them and they get labeled. So
Mhm.
sometimes you might have to move that type of boundary a little bit. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, a lot of boundary work.
that makes a lot of sense. And that's very helpful, I believe, to share with our listeners because I don't think there comes a level of codependency when it comes to those who are addicted.
Hmm.
We try to be the savior, we try to do things like you said, you don't want to be the bad wife, you don't want to, or people don't want to be the bad mom or the bad sister and, the bad daughter. But at the end of the day, there should be some level of boundary because you're talking about your life. Like we
Hmm.
all have choices, right? And it's not to, I don't want to come across mean when I say this. Everyone has their choice that they've made. The only thing that we can do, in my opinion, is do the best that we can, but we cannot be the dictator of their life. We cannot be the one making their decisions and then losing our life at the same time. And I know it's a little easier said than done. But
Hmm.
when we begin to practice and implement those boundaries, we begin to get into a flow. There's a flow.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I said no this time. I'm gonna say no again. I'm gonna get used to it. But like you said, have those moments where you can actually negotiate the level of
Yeah.
boundaries that you place in your life.
And I think women, they also have to expect and get ready for that tug of war, because
Mhm.
when you set boundaries, the other person probably won't like it.
Right.
Won't like it because it is something that's um gets in the way of them getting to their ultimate goal. It protects
Mhm.
you, it might inconvenience them, and so it be a tug of war, and you should be prepared for that.
Right, right. Now, you also mentioned shame. You said one of the common themes are shame and embarrassment, and they're feeling like they can't talk to anyone.
Hmm.
What do you typically do in those situations when you're coaching these women, whether in workshops or individually? How do you get them to understand that this is part of their story and to help them overcome that level of embarrassment?
Hmm. Sometimes it's really about just being able to look yourself in the mirror and say it out loud.
Mm,
Sometimes we really don't want to say it out loud, because if we say it out loud, then it's true.
mm,
So sometimes it's that. It might be some collage work. We might have to do some work related to identity.
mm.
You know, is this a part of your identity? Why? Why not? So yeah, things like that.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so what words of advice would you give to those who may have a spouse or family member struggling with addiction?
Advice. Do not wait to take care of yourself.
Mm.
So don't wait until they go to rehab. Don't wait until they get better. You have to really start pouring into yourself as soon as that problem has been identified. And I also say, I talk a lot about not holding a secret.
Mm.
When you hold that secret, it enables them to continue doing what they're doing. And so holding that secret could look like they passed out drunk and so they missed the family reunion. And you at the family reunion and everybody asking about him. And you're like, oh, he was tired. Oh, he worked late. No. Now you don't have to, go just shouting your business to everybody. And it's a tactful way, to say it. But you can't hold the secret. The longer you hold the secret, the worse it is for you because again, you're not saying it out loud. So you're really not accepting it and it's enabling for them. So those are the two things of advice I would give to people.
So just begin to speak up, right?
Speak up.
That's so crazy because it's like you say, it's like people, like even I can relate to some situation, not necessarily addiction, but just the point of when we tend to stop or mute our story, mute our situation or our circumstances, we stop our healing, we stop the process of growth, we stop the process of even possibly change, like
Yep.
you stated, because the minute that we begin to speak up is when maybe the person that you're dealing with maybe get to say, you know what, well, maybe I do need to change. There's a level of accountability when you speak up.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people try to avoid that, but it's
Mhm.
needed, especially in relationships and especially when it comes to addiction.
Mhm.
So thank you, Angelica. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
insight. How can our listeners find you, connect with you? Do you have any workshops, any programs that they can connect with?
I do. So everyone can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. My handle is the same across at Ther-art-py Studios.
Awesome, awesome. Awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about it. And I would like to connect with you more, especially when it comes to the art therapy and just kind of pick your brain about it because it's something that I'm looking to get into.
Okay.
And especially because I'm an artist, but just kind of hesitant to dive into that. But if you have any resources that you can share, that would be awesome.
Girl, take the
And
leap. Take the leap. Do it scared, because I know I done had to.
right. Well, is there anything else that you want our listeners to hear before you go ahead and close out?
No, thank you so much for having me. And I would love to be back on and share more. So I look forward to that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and put in the description your website, your Instagram handle, so our listeners can connect with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.